Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call me international. When me ride palm with them in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm with them and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamalski. We are the general. We sit up on the rhythm and over the mic incredible. I'll be right behind the rhythm, move with the rhythm, I sit down steady. Every ragamuffin you do, I feel rock and follow me. Jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it right. Chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we jump on mic, they call we give it a general. International, when me ride palm with them in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm with them and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamalski.
Yes. How's everyone doing today? Joshua Casper back at you with Plugin Boutique with another live stream. This is the second live stream of the year. Lots more to come, of course. Make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell. People are sleeping on the bell. Don't sleep on the bell. Hit it for me. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know what's good. Let me know where you're coming in from or viewing from. Thanks to everybody who showed up yesterday. That was a great stream. If you didn't make it, definitely check it out. It was with Asif, the co-founder and CEO of Polyverse. He dropped some knowledge on everybody, did some really great demos of all of their products. It's in the archive on the channel. Definitely check it out. Let me just read some of this chat for a second. Bernie H in the house. Jeremy Lenzo. Creative Theory, I think you were here yesterday. Tone, good to see you. Shout out. Robert in the house. Robert's always here. Robert's always on the live streams and always one of the first comments on videos. I do appreciate you, Robert. Got Norway, Denmark, Poland, Reading, UK. I've been there. Florida. All right, well, I mean, that's enough of the shenanigans. I'm going to bring on our guest today. We're here with Ari Winters, who is the chief creative officer at Heavyocity, one of my favorite instrument library manufacturers, based out of, I believe, New York City. He'll be able to inform us on that a little bit better in a second. But, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the man, the myth, the legend, Ari Winters. How are you? Oh, wait.
Very good.
How are you, my friend?
Very good. How are you? Joshua, JC, Big Deezy.
The Big Deezy, that's it. I'm absolutely wonderful. Really stoked to have you on the live stream today. Excited to not only hear you perform with your instruments, but be able to pick your brain about some things as well. I think I've expressed to you a number of times that I'm a huge fan, and I'm really, really excited that you're joining us today. Yeah.
Thank you.
For people who might not know yet, maybe it might be best to start with a little bit about who you are, Heavyosity in general, and your role there in the company.
Sure. I'm Ari. I'm creative director here at Heavyocity Media. And we develop virtual instruments for composers, producers, sound designers. And we try to do it in a way that is inspiring and new, creating new sounds, new textures, new ambiences, and just doing things a little bit differently than what the rest are doing. Whether it's from virtual instruments, plugins, writing music. We kind of started as a jingle house. We did music for Gillette commercials, Chunky Campbell Soup, NFL spots for years and years. And then shifted gears into saying, hey, we have this huge stockpile of stuff that we use for our own music. Let's see if we can figure out a way to make it usable for everybody else. And that was essentially the founding, very grassroots of Heavyocity Media. And lo and behold, oh boy, 16 years later, here we are.
That's,
In a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously 16 years is a lot to condense into a 2-minute long intro there, but I think most people know by now, or I hope most people know by now about the company and about the just incredible instruments and other VSTs that you have put out there into the world. I just want to let you know a little personal note. When I first reached out to Plugin Boutique, I wanted Damage. It was quite pricey, I believe, at the time. I don't know what it is now, or I don't remember what it was then, but I reached out to Gareth, who was running the show over here, and said, hey, can I get this? I'm an affiliate. I do okay. And he's like, yeah, if you show me some videos afterwards. And I literally remember where I was when he responded to me, and I got the email. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just got this. This is incredible. And those videos are what sparked my relationship with the Plugin Boutique team, and that's ultimately why I am here in the UK working full-time with them. Yeah. So
That's
thank
amazing.
you.
I didn't know that. That's great. Yeah, Damage was groundbreaking, literally and metaphorically. That was a fun, grueling process to make, but it was one of those products that just kept snowballing into something more and more and more and bigger and more aggressive, and just, I mean, we dropped buses from cranes to make drums.
Yeah, you actually showed me a couple of slides you wanted to show. I got to flip over to your desktop to do that, but let's go ahead and do that because I'm interested to get the full story there. It looked pretty entertaining.
Sure thing.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
So yeah, I'll just scroll through this. Kind of shows who we are. There's a little explanation needed. Set some mics up and do what we do. If something clangs and bangs, then it could be used for percussion. And I think that's a really important point in music today, is that it's not just your compositional style in writing, but it's the sounds that you use to create the sound of your scores. And that was something that we really kind of focus on as we develop products. And what better way to do that than, going to a junkyard and chopping stuff up. And then, 10 years later, we graduate a little bit into Damage 2. I would say that we've matured and grown, but, we still brought the dumpster in and stuck our engineer in it and figured out a way to record all those really juicy little bits.
You set the precedent now. That will need to happen on every iteration of Damage going forward.
Right. I mean, literal trash cans.
I mean, they make great sounds, though.
Great. Yeah, that's it.
And you recorded that at Skywalker Ranch, right?
Yeah, that's one of our favorite studios to record in, hands down. It's a beautiful space. It's a beautiful location. The team there is incredible. And the stage it's a large stage, but it's very forgiving and malleable, especially for sessions like this, or like sessions for like Forzo, where we had a very, very large brass ensemble recording. That's a lot of air moving in a space, and having a room that can really handle that is important for the sound.
Oh, 100%. So I got a question. When you book a place like Skywalker Ranch, the logistics behind such an endeavor, what do you need to bring? Obviously, you need to bring the trash cans. I mean, they're not going to let you bang on theirs, or maybe they did. I don't really know. But like, if there are specific microphones that you are, you lean towards, you like particularly, or you just go in and use the house microphones? Are the engineers just you and your team, or are there Skywalker Ranch employees or engineers there already? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so they have an 88RS. They have a great mic collection. We brought our own engineer. They have technicians that help out to set up. We had actually Satoshi Noguchi, who's a film mixer, is the guy that we usually use for big sessions like that. He's an awesome engineer. But he has this microphone that he loves using. It's an old vintage mic with horsehair in it. I can't remember the brand, but the thing sounds beautiful, and it allows for a lot of SPL.
I'm
Actually,
sorry.
a fun little
Did you say horsehair?
horsehair.
What?
There's horsehair.
Can you walk me through that? I hate to not have any idea what you're talking about, but I have no idea what you're talking about there.
I will try my best. I think they took the tail and just rubbed it on the microphone, and now it sounds good. No,
Magic is real.
no, I think the interior is baffled with, and it helps move the air. I mean, I'm probably butchering this, and he can explain it much better, but it's a pretty cool microphone.
Awesome.
A fun little tidbit on the recording is that I think we still, to this day, hold the record of open mics on the stage for Skywalker. For the drum sessions for Damage 2, I want to say we had 89 mics recording for the session live on the stage. That we then, in Damage 2, we mix down to the 5 channels that we provide to the customers. But
that's an impressive number. Yeah. Heavy. That is a heavy number of microphones. And we were actually checking out some statistics and numbers about Damage 2 before we jumped on stream, and it was like 42,000 samples inside of it or something.
Yeah, that was a big product. We rolled up to Skywalker with an 18-wheeler full of drums and dumpsters and trash cans, but a lot of drums. We had a 72-inch concert bass drum. We had a 60-inch taiko, along with Chinese toms, Chinese tam-tams, tons of taikos, darbukas, like the full gamut that's in the product. It ranges from really gnarly and nasty to these really pristine, kind of extra thumpy drums.
Nice.
That was a grueling session. I think by the end of it, everybody was ready for a massage, but that was 7 days of a lot of striking. It was fun though. It was a good session.
I think people are looking forward to hearing some of the instruments and effects in action, so I'm not going to hold them away from that for too much longer. If we could just get you to boost up the mic just a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A little bit better?
Oh, yeah. Much better.
All right.
So what do we got up here first on the chopping block today?
All right, so first up, I figured we would chat a little bit about the Damage drum kit that came out. This is the first Damage pack that we've released. It came out towards the end of last year, and it's a beautifully recorded drum kit that we did here at the studio, and then we Heavyocity-ized it. And I'll play a little bit of the demo that I wrote for it. And in doing so, I have Punish on and Fury, which is our new distortion plugin. And we can kind of run through what the drum kit sounds like naturally, what Punish can do to help hype things up a little bit more, and then what it can do on bass and guitars and keys. So I'll just hit play here a little bit so you can hear the first part of the track. So yeah, just all in. That's everything. Let's focus solely on the drums to begin with.
So we actually had a question already from
Sure.
Estelad, and I guess you've kind of already answered it, and they're wondering about damage expansions in Damage 3. Obviously, Damage 3 is not something we can, I would assume you couldn't tell us about right now, but this is essentially the first expansion, is it not, of Damage 2?
So yeah, Damage Drum Kit is Damage Pack 01.
Nice.
So there's a 1, which might imply some other things.
Let me see if I remember how numbers work.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yes, this is the first Damage Pack. There will be more coming.
Nice.
This one, personally for me, this was a fun one because it's a drum kit. It's the one thing that in Damage 2, right? Damage 1, we had tons of drum kit stuff. We had church sessions. We had sessions that we did at Skyline Studios. Damage 2, we focused more on the ensemble and larger room, larger format stuff, so we didn't have just the drum kit. And having this as an add-on really kind of filled and kind of continued that story of Damage 2 in a really nice way. And it's, Neil and Dave have been doing this for decades, and they worked at a studio prior to moving to New York earlier on in their careers. Recording and engineering, and we're all kind of heavy-handed, if you haven't realized that with the names of our company.
Yeah, it's in the name.
It's in the name. So, we hyped it up a little bit. We compressed, we made it punchy, thumpy, but not overly driven, because you can do that in the engine later on if you really want. You have the punish knob, you have a whole bunch of effects per channel if you wanted to. So in the drums, typically what I like to do in the drums is split up the lows, mids, and highs into different channels here so that I can mix them separately. So I have my kicks and toms on one, my snares on another, my toms on another, and the drums just have a really nice, tight punch. Now, if we wanted to add just a little bit more, a little more warmth, a little bit more snap, we can go crazy with it. But just to help pop through the mix, works really nicely.
I have a question.
Sure.
When someone gets the Damage Drum Kit, I mean, it's obviously what you have programmed here really lends itself to what I would consider a more rocked themed track. Is there new content in this, or is this just existing Damage content, maybe with a little bit of sound design, a little bit of programming there, or is there new content? Like what's going on in terms of that?
So Damage Drum Kit as the first pack is all new content. This is newly recorded at our studio here, new loops, new drums, new sources. There's no shared sounds between Damage 2 and the Damage packs. And that's something, again, like we wanted to continue this story of Damage, that this going from the kind of crane crash to recording in the big space with a dumpster, recording in our space, doing the cymbals, but then, still continuing that path of what Damage is without having too much crossover.
Would you say that it's themed more towards rock, or is that incorrect to say it's something like that?
Yeah, I think, the Damage Drum Kit, again, like we're Heavyosity. We're heavy. We all like metal. We like trailers. We like heavy music. And it's, it's a punchy, snappy, thumpy drum kit that really works well. Actually, I have another one open that...
While you're opening that, Fabiano B is wondering if there are any pre-recorded loops. I know that Damage 2 has the loops section, which is one of my favorite things to mess around with. So Drum Kit does as well. Oh, that's awesome. The loop designer.
Yes,
great.
so Drum Kit does as well. And it's set up the same way as Damage. You have the loop designer, so you have the lows, mids, highs, the breakouts. You can mix and match. You can design them. You can add effects to them. But just like Damage 2, we have the loops, we have the kit designer, and then we also have the ensemble designer, which I don't have open for the drum kit, but we can get into that with Damage 2 a little bit later on, about how that works with the stage, and you can place it in your 3D space to make a more kind of cinematic feel. I found that for the track that I was writing here, it was easier to use the kind of standard MIDI kit format with the pads, which is fully customizable. You can choose whatever sound you want loaded on whatever pad simply by clicking and dragging. You can even change what MIDI note triggers that pad. So if you have a Roland V drum, or if you have an MPC, or any MIDI input device, or you just have the way that you like performing, you can set these pads up to work with whatever your session is working with and whatever input your session has. The drums, to answer the first question, are, they're heavy-handed. They're definitely, this is one of the kind of damaged presets. Big, overdriven, squashed, snappy. It's got that kind of like arena track breakdown vibe. And it just sits. It sits really, really nicely in the track.
Love to hear it.
Yeah. So these drums, if we want to take a quick listen to just the kick, right? The kicks and the lows. And we have punish on the drum sub. If we turn it off, it loses a little snap. Punish on. Gets a little brighter, a little snappier. So if you have a really heavy mix, you can just do a little bit of bump to get it out.
So do you have a hat on top of that kick as well? What's giving it that nice little reverb?
So we have a room on the interface. You have some basic EQ. I have a little bit of bump on the top end. On each of these sources, you can change volumes. And on each of the sources in the Damage drum kit, this is the same as Damage 2 engine on the kit designer, you can actually have compression, EQ, reverb, delay, modulation. You can rearrange the order and build your own kind of channel strip of effects on each of the sounds individually. So let's say you build your kit here and you want to do everything in the drum kit preset. You can add compression to the snare. You can add a little bit of transient design to the kick to get a little more snap at the start. Or say you want more body on the cymbals, you can add a little more transient on the cymbals. So if we have the kick, we have rolls, right? So you can see here I have the transient designer on, adding a little bit more sustain, a little bit of highs and mids, and a little bit of reverb just on the snare.
I see. So that's per pad effect switches there. And Peter Brandt in the chat is wondering if you also have a way to do multiple outs for each one of the pads into the DAW.
Right here.
Done.
So on each source, you can copy and paste settings. But for each pad, you have the option here. If you set up your outputs in Kontakt and then set it up with your DAW to receive the aux outputs or the multiple stereo outputs from Kontakt, you can send to whatever output you want. So you can send your snares to a different output in your DAW in the one kit. I think for some busier kits, I actually prefer to just load a Kontakt with 3 outputs and then have an NKI for just the low stuff, and NKI for just the mid stuff, and NKI for just the high stuff.
Yeah.
But that's because I have no memory anymore. So it's easier for me to just have a thing in front of me that shows it.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Tone is wondering if there's any MIDI or grooves included with the drum kit.
There is no MIDI to host included. The loops are pre-recorded. So they're pre-built. They're not sliced individually. But you can change those up pretty easily. So you can start on the loop designer. Let me crack that guy open. take a look. So here you have handles where you can adjust the loop start, you can adjust the loop length, you can adjust the loop end, so you can trigger it whenever you want. It's triggered by MIDI. They're mapped across the keyboard. You can see here the mapping starts at C2 and ends at B4. And you have some additional transitions and stuff on top of it. And then we also took all of these individual sounds as we were making the loops. To do these loops, we kind of do the Heavyocity treatment where we sound design them. We pre-make the sounds, we pre-bake it into the loop, but we make it sparse enough where they don't get too busy to be usable. I think actually this is something that we've learned over time. Space plays a big key in making content.
Yeah.
It's something we always need to focus on as we're making loops, making sounds. If there's too much going on when you start stacking things, then you just don't have room for two things. You don't have room for the rest of your stuff to pop through, and you don't have room for your creativity to come through, really. Like, if there's too much busyness in the loop, then you can't really be too creative with it. It's kind of just trucking ahead, and that's all it does.
I'm going to be honest with you, Ari. I think a lot of the music I gravitate towards, like fully composed and out released music, is a lot. It's just really minimal to begin with. Like, so, yeah, I mean, it's also just I think an amateur thing to like want to put more and add more and do more. And sometimes it's like, nah, you've got the groove, and that's really, if the groove is right, just that's it. I mean, add some more, but be okay with taking it away. So that's it. 100% the right move. You should play some of the loops, because I haven't had hands-on with drum kit, but I know that Damage 2 and literally all the plugins or instrument libraries you have that have that loop designer, it's my favorite thing just to get in with. It's like difficult to get bad results, which is just, speaks to the quality of the instruments.
And it is, honestly, it's all about the space. If you're making a loop with just a kick and a high, there's got to be enough room for everything to breathe. It's got that pause. And the really cool thing about the loop designer is that you get 12 of each bank. Oh, this is, actually, I just found one of my favorites. Just got the stuff behind me, that nasty, gnarly analog thing going on. So you can mix and match. You can build your loops however you want. You can make them as busy as you want. If you just want the highs, you play that top octave. And in the drum kit, we have, just like in Damage, we have straights, triplets, you have your breakouts, your kind of all-stars, just the lows, just the mids, just the highs. If you wanted to have 36 loops of just lows, just mids, just highs, hybrid, organic, and then just damaged. I can pull up some of the damaged. So there's enough space for your music to come through, but it's got enough unique textures in there that really make it different. And all this stuff is, again, built from just the drum kit. Like, we're not pulling anything from Damage 2. These are sounds that we've taken from snares, from the kicks, from the hi-hats, and done our sound design treatment to them. And then we've broken them apart into their individual sources, which you could then load and build your own kit out of. And like all these reverses, all these little hits and crunchy bits. In Damage 2, there's a section called Bits, and that has a lot more than Damage Drum Kit. It's a much larger project. But yeah, we tried to provide it every which way that we could to you so that you can write music the way that you want to write music and have it comfortable enough to be able to be creative and not take that creativity away by getting stuck in the rut of writing loops. It's always a sticking point, right? Like, is it okay to do loops? Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Sure,
It's okay.
It's okay.
I'm here. I'm as the authority on the channel. It's okay.
That's it. So yes, Drum Kit Designer has loops. It's got tons of them. It's got kits. Got tons of them. Got a lot of sources. And it punches. It really does.
It does.
And then,
Yeah.
you know,
Can I just go back to Ari, the loop thing? The only people that complain about loops are other music producers. My wife has no idea about music production, and if she does not care if it's got a loop in it or not, she just wants to, whatever the mood is of the moment, that's it. If it's a good song, it's a good song. That's it.
Yeah, it doesn't define your song, and it doesn't define your creativity.
Yeah.
It absolutely does not. If it can inspire you to get moving, I mean, that's for me in writing a track. Sometimes the best part of production for us is when the product is finished and we get to actually play with it. Yeah. Being able to write music with it, really put it through its paces. But I get stuck easily, right? Sometimes it's hard to just start with a blank slate in front of you, and having something that can inspire you to at least get the ball rolling, even if it's just 4 bars of some kind of movement.
Yeah,
it can really spark all that creativity. It gets rid of that kind of fear of jumping off. And
well, I'll tell you what, Ari, I know some people at Loop Cloud, and there's over 4 million samples in there. If you want me to hook you up, I can get you.
I need all the help I can get. Amazing.
Oh, I just want to point out. Oh, sorry. Let me just jump in. I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
Yeah, no.
Everybody who's just joined us a little bit late, we're here with Ari Winters, the Chief Creative Officer over at Heavyocity. We're going through some of their newer instruments. Checking out the Damage drum kit right now. We are going to be doing some giveaways on the stream as we normally do. To be entered to win that, you just got to be active in the chat. We're going to choose a few random people at the end of the stream, or announce them at the end of the stream, and give some people some late Christmas presents, essentially, or holiday presents. And also take part in the poll we're running. We want to know, we want to hear from you. We want to know what kind of content you want this year. But welcome to everybody who's just come in. It's good to see you. And by all means, Ari, continue with your incredible demonstration of these incredible instruments.
All right. So with the drum kit pumping along, I wanted to jump a little bit into using Punish and Fury on the guitars and bass. I think that these really help the sounds just come through in a track like this. I wanted it to be a little bit of that kind of Nick Cave, John Wick vibe. So there's unease. It's not perfectly performed. It's my excuse for playing poorly. Really.
We talked about this briefly, and I think it's worth talking about maybe now, as both you're going to Fury and Punish are distortion and saturation, and I've got kind of a saying that I like to say as often as possible, which is don't sleep on the saturation. And when I told you that, you said, that's such a key part of what you do, not only with obviously the distortion saturation plugins, Fury and Punish, but just in making the instrument libraries, and how ultra clean sounds, while they're great starting position, is very rarely what you want in the end of the product. So maybe you can speak on how saturation plays such an important role in maybe in 2 forms: one in the company Heavyosity and the output you have, and also your own personal use of it inside of the compositions you arrange.
Sure, yeah, and I think that's exactly right. Saturation, drive, gain staging, all this stuff really affects the harmonic structure of your sounds, of your music, of your tracks. As you're mixing, you could be increasing and decreasing those stages, but using just compression and leveling alone, you can miss out on a lot of the juicy little nuggets that exist in those sounds. And we found over time that in practice, the kind of pristine, hyper clean, perfectly quantized stuff, it loses that humanity. Mm-hmm. It loses that kind of natural vibe. It's almost like the uncanny valley, right? You know there's something not quite right.
Yeah.
Even if it looks right, you know there's something not quite right. But if you start adding in the imperfections, it comes closer to home. Which, little side note, a funny little tidbit is that also means that at some point in our evolutionary history, there was something that looked human but wasn't and made us very uncomfortable.
There's jokes there. There's jokes there, but let's leave those. Let's leave those for now.
But those imperfections can then get heightened by using things like saturation and drive without affecting too much the transients or the overall shape of the sound. And all of those extra little nuggets that come out really just bring it to life. Having it a little looser, having it driven just helps. And I'll actually I'll start playing here, and then we can solo the guitars and bass, and I'll show you what's going on with the bass and Punish and Fury. So in the guitars, if we bring this in, you get a little more sizzle, a little more top. A little muted without it. It gets a little crunchier. And the really cool thing about Punish is that this center knob is kind of like a macro control knob for all of the other parameters on here. You know, main difference between Fury and Punish is Fury is a 3-stage multi-mode distortion plugin. It will drive, saturate, and distort. Punish is more geared towards some saturation, some compression, and then a little bit of EQ and transient design, which will help pump up those sounds. You could go heavy-handed with it and make it really nasty. We could pull this guy up. And that's what the sound started as.
Love it.
Or just have a little bit.
No,
you have you have controls here where you can have the one knob, which you can then automate as your track moves, because maybe you want a little bit more during a chorus or a little bit less during a verse. You can modulate the one knob without having to do all of the modulation for each of the threshold, the drive, and you can increase or decrease the ranges with which those controls move simply by clicking the edit. You got the range on almost every parameter has the ability to be modulated. We also have, for compression and saturation in Punish, we have a low pass filter that lets all the low end through so that you don't lose that body by overdriving. So if you really want to go heavy handed or really, really squashed, you don't lose the punch and thump. And it, crossfades at the right point. There's no phase issues, and it just works really well. So on the bass, it's a little driven already. Good orange amp. It's got that growl. Some good compression. Just levels the sound out with a little bit more drive. And if you really want to go nuts, this is where Fury can come in. Pull that up now.
I got a quick question. Obviously, we were speaking before that Neil is quite an accomplished guitarist. Is that Neil on that guitar though, or is that from a library, or is that you, or where did that guitar come from?
There's a guy way back in the corner.
Yeah, I see it.
Bass. Yep, that was just me playing. We have in the live room. We have a bunch of amps. That probably would have been a lot better in time if Neil was playing it. But it was me. I played it.
Well,
I do dabble in the bass.
everybody who doesn't know should definitely go check out. Do you have a Spotify? I watch all of your plug-in demo, videos, and obviously your walkthroughs and stuff. But do you release music still, or is there a place where people can check out your compositions?
We do. We have we have all our walkthroughs for the demos that we write for the tracks, which are a lot of fun to do and a lot of fun to watch. Actually, not so much fun to make. There's lots of edits, but I get through it. We also have the company that we started with, Heavy Melody Music, which is the predecessor, the sister company to Heavyosity. After we kind of got out of advertising, we shifted gears into doing trailer music. So we have albums of trailer music that you can listen to up on Spotify. It's some fun stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I highly suggest it. Maybe my friend Killian, who's running the chat for me, can drop some links to some of your demo walkthroughs, because they're really impressive and inspiring, and it's just really great to listen to, never mind watch and be like, oh, wait, maybe I can do that with that. So
it is. We also started a really fun YouTube series, which we'll pick up again soon, called The Brief, where we put together a little 30-second clip and then kind of pin two composers against each other. And we have, I believe there's 5 episodes out now. We did one with Symphonic Destruction with me and Dave writing the music after Neil did the trailer, which was a lot of fun. Those are super enjoyable because you get to see this interpretive experience of the composers with the same instructions and the same clip to write to.
It's awesome.
Definitely check those out. They're fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, so with Fury and the bass. So here's what the bass sounded like prior. Just gets all that really nice stuff. So on this one, we have a more tame version than where you could really go with Fury. In Fury, there are 3 different stages. I guess it's a 3-stage distortion. You have the drive, distortion, and tones. In this one, I'm using Big Fuzz, which is kind of modeled after the Big Muff pedal, the traditional fuzz. We have my dad's original V2 Ram's Head Big Muff from 1972.
Is that right?
Hanging out here. That thing sounds just amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, so that's actually modeled on that particular one, or?
So we took that one, did some modeling on that, then did it again on a few others, and kind of found a good average that worked well.
How do
these
you?
Are all?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna say they're all basically these DSP algorithms are all basically built off of our signal chains that we use here. And like we were talking about before, we like saturation. We have a lot of it here.
Were you? I'm guessing you were involved with the modeling process in some capacity, if not really hands-on. How do you model something like your dad's old distortion unit? Do you do you actually get into the circuitry, or do you pass a clean tone from it and take an impulse response? What is the process there? Where would one begin? I mean, let's not get too much in the weeds here. This is just for me, but I'm totally curious.
A little bit of both. Our programmer here is the the brains behind the details of how it all came together. He's the one that put the DSP together. But a little bit of both. We'll pass signal clean at different stages and go from, almost like a velocity curve, go from a normal saturation amount to a little bit more drive, a little bit more tone. What we try to do, and it's an interesting structure that you have to build, because guitar pedals and outboard gear and racks have their own gain stages. So they have input gain, they have output gain. You can drive the in harder than the out, or the tones. So what we did was we found the spots that we thought sounded good to our ears, and then ran the signals in varying stages all the way through. And then that went over to our programmer, who then took it on some devices, looked at the schematics, and then had the signal chains built, had the algorithms built from those impulses that went through, basically.
Perfect. And Alexander Volishin is wondering, you've mentioned gain staging earlier, and you mentioned it again now, and specifically the Heavyosity saturation plugin. Are they input dependent, like some analog emulated plugins?
So this, if I'm understanding correctly, the input, there's true bypass in it. So if you bypass the mix, you'll get a unaffected signal. This main input will affect the overall drive that you're going to hit. So this essentially goes linearly. You have the drive mode that then feeds into the distortion mode, that then feeds into the tone mode. The input is feeding at the start here. I hope that answers your question.
I think it does. Are all the parameters automatable? Music 7 Studios is wondering.
So they are automatable. You can, let me get to some of the parameter stage pages here. You can control everything from your DAW here, but we also have a modulation section if you wanted to do something a little more rhythmic. And these are just fun to play with. I'll get that for the time being.
And that's got no input, right?
Nothing. So if you look here, I have the feedback turned up to 100%. And the gate on that preset is currently on, but if I turn the gate off, then it's basically going to self-oscillate. So with the gate on, it's taking, based off of the threshold that I set, will cut the signal so you don't hear it. But if I play audio through it, so you can tailor, you can have it based off of a sequence that you've built. These are, these curves you can change. You can really build some really complicated rhythmic patterns. You can have it follow your envelope input. So if you're doing drums, it works great on that. Or you can just have an LFO cycling. You can do kind of tremolo effects. I'll pull up a couple of other rhythmic ones because they're a lot of fun. Say I wanted to you can get really, really creative here with how things can be processed, how the drive can be processed. You can build these sequences. If you want it rhythmic, you can build it off of the envelope. And you can go light to heavy. It can get really, really nasty in a good way. Let me pull this guy up because this just with bass works so well. Kind of White Stripes, Queens of the Stone Age vibe. And on that one, it's based off of a tube amp and then a tilt EQ at the end with an input boost.
Love it.
So without going too much further, that's pretty much what you can do with Fury on bass and guitars. It works great with keys. It works really well with drums. Vocals. There's a whole category in there. To make things a little easier for people, we kind of split it apart by use. We have the keys and synth, the experimental, and then some of the more basic stuff. Guitars and bass. And then rhythmic, we separated into its own thing because that's a little more creative. It tempo syncs to whatever your host is at. And just get creative with it. It can do some really cool stuff, especially with that feedback knob up. You can get that that old school. I say old school like it's a long time ago, but that kind of fragile 9 Inch Nails feedback drum thing going on. I mean, we modeled it after those yellows behind me in the Euro racks.
Nice.
You just get that sound. It's a really, really cool sound.
That's one of the more recent plugins as well, right?
Yes, so that came out fairly recently, towards the end of last year, and it's just fun. I love playing with that one. It's pretty versatile, but again, we're Heavyosity, so
it can go really heavy, that one.
Exactly. All right, so why don't we move on a little bit? Unless there's more questions about the drum kit or Fury or Punish. If they're not, we can.
So just a more of a random question from Remy Music. They're wondering if you've ever heard anything from your libraries in something like in the box office, like a Hollywood film or on TV or anything like that. Oh yeah, give us some examples if you don't mind.
I remember early on, this was in the early days, the fledgling days of Heavyosity, when we had just released Evolve and Evolve Mutations. I mean, back at that time, it was the three of us. It was Dave, Neil, and myself. An order would come in on the website, and we would frantically pack the box, fold it up, put the disc in, run across the street. We were in the city on 28th at the time. There was a FedEx right across the street, stamp the label on, give it to FedEx, ship it out. And we're like, yes, we sold one. But at that time, we had started building some relationships with composers, and we kind of struck a nerve there with Evolve being this cinematic tool in the compositional space. And there are definitely some films that came out where, Contagion had some really cool sounds in it that we recognized. It's hard not to recognize the sounds that you make after working so closely with them for so long, right? Some projects can take years to develop, right? Damage 2 took years to make. And when it comes to the Damage hits in Damage 2, some of those hits take days just to make one hit. And you become so intimately familiar with every little nuance, every squeak, every pitch bend, every scrape, every impact that you can hear it instantly when it's played somewhere. And you just,
Nice.
If you listen to a movie trailer, you'll recognize stuff. Almost like that sound from, was it Rusty Spoke? The one sound that everybody used back in the early 90s that just it went
There's a few of those little the gems. There's the guy that's like Wah! That's in all the
Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's great. And there's the other one from some game or something that's in all the viral videos these days, and the guy, never mind, let's not get the leads there. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% get it. If you've spent literally 48 hours sound designing a thing, even if it's then manipulated in some way, it's like your child at that point. You're like, oh, that's my child screaming. I get that one. Yep. You know what I mean? Just like through a sea of child screams, you'll still pick out yours. So I mean, I get
that's
that.
It.
Yeah.
That is the best analog I've heard of it.
Well, I mean, that's what we do over here at the Plug-in Boutique streams. If you like that, go ahead and subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot of these this year. By the way, everybody who's joining us a bit late, we're here with Heavyocity and Ari Winters, going through some of their newer releases. We're doing some giveaways. Just got to be active in the chat to be entered to win. We're going to pick a few people at random and announce the winners at the end. And just have good fun. We're talking about music production. We're talking about Heavyocity instruments and effects. And if you have any questions for me or Ari, just at Plug-in Boutique, and we'll try to get them answered here on the stream. That's it.
All right.
Spiel over.
Great. And with the end of the spiel, let's pull back from the heaviness a little bit, and we'll focus a little more on one of our newest releases, Vocalise Numero Trace. Vocalise 3. One of my favorite products we've made. The sound is just beautiful. I loved writing tracks to it. I loved writing the tracks for the trailer, doing the kind of like Dune style track. It has a very intimate sound and really unique rhythmic elements to it, which just speaks so well with the female voice. I have a little bit of that kind of built in here. We could take a quick listen, and then we'll go through what we're listening to. And then I can bring in some of the phrases. a little quick taste of what it is. Vocalise 3 is jam-packed with stuff. There's tempo-synced phrases that are in different keys. There's pre-recorded intervals, kind of like legatos, that you can use as transitional elements. There's these really unique rhythmic pedals. There's a trend now that we're hearing in scoring where people are using the human voice more as rhythmic elements. And this is in the Dune soundtrack. It was in Squid Games. It kind of began, I may be a little off on this, but to my ears, it kind of began with Johan Johansson's score on Arrival, where he did those really unique textures and really unique syllables. And we ran with that and recorded a bunch of different pedals, a bunch of different textures that just sound amazing.
Ari, what is a couple of things? What is a pedal? And also, I have had hands-on only with Vocalise 1 to this point. Were you working with the same vocalist? Because, I mean, if my memory serves me correct, they're very similar, if not the same.
There is one vocalist who is the same common thread throughout the 3 products. The other is not. And they both have, Carla's an incredible singer. Kristen's an incredible singer. And Carla's got a really versatile voice. And with this one, we focused on intimacy. Vocalise 2 was more kind of the big kind of trailer score, a lot more reverb, a lot more space, a lot more projection in the voice. And Vocalise 3 is more focused on proximity, softer singing, opening the mic up a little bit more so that you get a little more of the sounds, a little bit more of the kind of what we were talking about earlier. You get a little bit more of that humanity in it. You get more of the stuff that comes with singing that just sounds natural and intimate.
Nice.
Pedals, we kind of dubbed here where we take a rhythmic element. Let's just solo one of these. So it's a sung rhythmic element. It's tempo synced. It's these pre-comped syllables that we write up that we think sound great sung together. It's always fun making these because we are coming up with syllables, not words. So some of them get pretty goofy sometimes. And then we have the singer sing them up the key range so that you can play. So you can get whatever chord progression you want. You can build pretty complex elements by playing them separately, staggered. It just gets this really cool, unique vibe to it.
100%.
And it's one of those things that, for me, this is just pure inspiration. Starting with one of these, like, I just want to play and just keep playing. Like, it just sounds cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that.
So you said you actually had the vocal performers sing at different pitches. Obviously, it's what were you doing, thirds, or are you like every third
It
note?
depends.
Oh, okay.
It depends on the range of the singer. Minor thirds we found works as a good like bass line, but sometimes it doesn't.
Mhm.
So we have to shift notes around a little bit to what sounds best. It's a little bit of a like back and forth on the fly while we're doing sessions where I think after a few years we kind of know what works and doesn't now, so we're able to pick it out pretty quickly. But if the singer starts singing a note and it's wobbling around a little more, then maybe we'll have her go to a second or a major third or something that feels a little more comfortable to the singer.
Mhm.
The tempo syncing works really well. The pitch shifting works pretty well within the confines of pitch shifting. But I think within the ranges, it's more important to us that we have the singer, one, comfortable,
Right.
and two, feeling natural in the way that she or he are singing. Because if they don't have that, then you can pitch stretch all you want, but it just won't sound as good as the other notes.
Right. Can you play a few more audio examples? People are really digging what you just did, and I am too. So if you could play a few more, I don't think anyone would be upset.
Yeah, so I'll go to, we have a section called the remix pedals, which we do what Heavyocity does. So we take those pedals and then we affect them. I'll start with just one note here so you can hear what it sounds like. Let me take off the delay and reverb from the engine just so you can hear the clean remix pedal. So you get these juicy little bits of stutters and reverses, swells into the note. You get these textures that come in.
That sold me.
And again, if you do the stagger, just pretty.
I love the stereo imaging is really, really well done as well. I mean, just any ear candy for me is, it makes me happy and just in life in general, never mind music production. But I mean, there's the little stutters are great, like the little rolls are there, but you're also playing with the stereo image and what it feels like a very precise way, which is, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, it's just great, and I'm sold. I'm definitely gonna have this on my machine by tomorrow. So thank you for that.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is one of the things that we were talking about with saturation. Stereo space is a big one.
Yeah,
Especially now when we have tracks that are chock full of stuff. There's tons of stuff that goes into a piece of music. Stereo space is really important. If you have delays that are running, I think Alan Meyerson's actually the one of the guys that I had watched early on who was talking about this, where he would offset the delays just by a few samples to build a little more stereo space. And that's one of those things especially in sample libraries where that field can stack up real fast.
yeah.
So making sure that if there's a delay coming out and it doesn't need to be uniform left and right, then make that space.
Yep.
Be very intentional with how you design these samples so that when a person sits down and plays, if there's an echo, there's room for a violin on the left, or there's room for the drum in the middle, or there's room for the bass in the middle. Like, space is really, really important on these.
So, I mean, we talked earlier about space in the terms of time, and we talked about how important that is. And it's just, this is the exact same thing, but in the stereo field, and they work really well together. If you've got a more these are pretty sparse, the ones that you've been playing, and that's what allows you to not only add those intricacies with the stuttering and other effects, but then throw them a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right, sometimes a little bit more to the left and the right, and it's making more character out of. I mean, if you could just imagine if you just had that really fast and just in the center with nothing else happening, how dull it would be. So not only does it speak to the quality of the vocalist you've used here, but the sound engineering that goes behind the thing.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point too, is that the singer needs to have the timbre of voice to allow for that, right? If it's a really full-bodied voice, that may take up a lot more space. Having them sing intimately and closely to the mic, you'll get more body, but you don't get that belt out.
Yep.
So it doesn't feel like it's really filling up everything.
Yeah.
And it works well. And it left enough space for us to do, like you said, these kind of little tidbits of stuff in between them, which are really, really fun.
I've got a few questions to get through, but maybe if you want to play a few more, I do not want to stop you from playing a few more.
Here's another pedal. It's a little more whispery. And now the fun part is when you start to play two of those together. it just feels inspiring and new.
Yep, absolutely love it. Tony Jackson is wondering, out of the 3 Vocalise plugins we have or instrument libraries you have available, which might be the best for a first purchase?
Wow.
It's like it's Sophie's Choice. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Do you prefer child 1, 2, or 3? It really depends on the kind of music that you want to be writing.
That's a good
Vocalise
angle.
1 and 2,
Yeah.
Their Vocalise 1 and 2 are more grandiose cinematic. Vocalise 3 is more intimate and textural. There are none of these pedals in Vocalise 1. Vocalise 1 has tons of phrases, pre-sung phrases, really cool pads, complex pads with textures. Vocalise 2 has rhythmic pedals with more recognizable syllables. So they're less whispery, they're stronger, more syllabic. And Vocalise 3, again, is more intimate. I hope that answers it.
I think it does. Someone's wondering, and this is Oriel Decoy is wondering if you're ever going to go for, you're saying intimate, but yet that's kind of the antithesis of the Heavyosity brand. And this is a question, right, that speaks to that, is are you ever looking to make something a little more aggressive in this line of, instead of the more delicate and kind of soft-spoken, to be a little bit more heavy?
Our latest plugin was called Fury.
Okay, throw
yes.
Fury on anything. There you go.
Absolutely. I think that there's definitely a space for that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if we'll do something as heavy-handed as some of the music that we like to listen to. We're all metalheads here.
Yeah, nothing but screams across the keyboard.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Perfect. This is what I listen to at night.
Fog Various, that's a great username, is wondering if a normal HDD is okay for this, or is an SSD required? Obviously, it'd be better, but if you can speak to that.
SSD is definitely not required. HDD would work fine. These are preloaded as long as you have a good amount of RAM. Then you should have at least a portion of the samples preloaded, depending on the preset type that you have loaded. There are 2 different types of modes. For those that don't know in Kontakt, there's something called direct from disk or sampler mode. Sampler will load everything into RAM, and direct from disk will load tiny little snippets into RAM and leave the rest streaming from your hard drive. Products like Vocalise do not take up a huge amount of footprint. They're not 40,000 samples big. And yeah, you should be totally fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my more popular videos I did before I joined Plugin Boutique full time was the Purge feature, because yeah, when you get a library that has 40,000, and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna cram this all on the RAM. I was like, I got 8 gigabytes of RAM. This is not so. Yep. Purge. Look up Purge, Joshua Casper, Kontakt Purge, and you'll get what you're after to help you a lot if anything is a little bit sluggish with Kontakt.
Yep. And we've actually built that as a feature into our instruments, where if you load up Forzo, Novo, Vento, there's a little purge button. If you don't want to use a channel, you can just...
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I used a Heavyosity instrument in the video, so hopefully a little bit of extra promo there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just if you're... Yeah, we don't have to get too much into it. Another question from Control 5 DNB is, are you planning to update UIs for Kontakt 7?
It sounds great. We're definitely in contact with Native Instruments about Kontakt 7, and just waiting on a little more information.
There you go. And how many different unique vocal sounds are in Vocalise 3? I'm assuming Michael Hopkins is wondering.
Oh, boy.
You can ballpark it, man. Don't feel like you need to be too precise.
Let me think. I need to think about that one for a second, because it's been... We've had a few... I'm sorry, popping that up. Let me see. We have the list on the site, but there's a lot. you have menus. I want to say there's 96 different phrases. So there's over 2,000 sources. There's 384 individual melodic phrases. So 94 was way off on that one. It's 384 phrases. There's 36 pedals, 576 different intervals. There's 24 presets for you to load in, 16 different moving vowel, kind of sustained but modulating sounds, and then 184 different unique soundscapes and drones, which are super cool. Let me bring some of those up, actually, because these are really great. And they are in key signatures. I will just change this here. And these scapes are multi-timbral, so they're great mood setters, where you can just play one note. And just...
Yeah, I'm sold.
It moves, it modulates, it changes.
Yes.
It's all that fun stuff. It's the stuff that we get to do with the stuff after we record it. We get to play around with it. And we did, going back to that question before, we did focus very intently on the space and intimacy and lightness of this one. Not so heavy-handed. So that we can spread our chops and our wings into the sound design realms with using a little bit of saturation here and there, but nothing too heavy.
Well, I think you've done a fantastic job. I'm definitely gonna get it. I'm gonna send another email to Gareth and tell him that he has to talk to you about it.
All right.
I don't know how it's gonna have to happen, but it's gonna have to.
We'll make it work.
Nice. It was. If you want to know, I was correct, and my friend Killian, who's helping me in the stream, shout out Killian, found my RAM tutorial, and it was modern strings.
All right.
So go watch, learn more about Heavyosity. I told you, I wasn't joking when I said you're one of my faves. So, I mean, that's an incredible, that and Forzo, I mean, it's mind-blowing. What you can do. And I remember I made a video about, like, essentially, can it trap or something like that, or can it hip hop, or and you guys actually reached out to me and they're like, hey, we like, because a lot of people will see something like a modern strings and be like, oh, well, I don't compose for film, and it's like, no, you're missing the point here. This is going to change the game for whatever you're doing, really. Yeah,
I think that's one of our keys every time we look at designing a new product. That yes, we're Heavyosity. Yes, we focus on the cinematic gaming world, but we don't do the bread and butter. Like, yeah, we'll make a string library, but it's not your average strings. It's not a beautiful violin virtuoso. It's a beautiful violin virtuoso that we've then processed and tweaked and given controls that allow you to mess around with and stutter and gate and reverb. And there's a lot of great companies out there that make a lot of great products, and we have found the focal point that we're in, and we enjoy it. We love working at it, and hopefully that turns into us being competent and letting everybody else use it.
I mean, I think you're doing it. I think you're doing it. I speak for all music producers, so I mean, I've been tasked with that, so I can safely say that you're doing it. You're doing a great job.
All right, doing it. All right, so let's get into back to the heavy world.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Let's get into damage, and we'll focus, since we did the kit and loops with the drum kit. It's the same interface, same kind of feature set. We'll focus on the ensemble designer here. I put a little bit of a demo together we could just start to listen through and hear what it sounds like. And one of the biggest focuses on Damage 2 was making sure that we tracked big, bombastic, and heavy, but all the way across the dynamic range, making sure that you got the really nice thump and the heavy. we'll stop there.
Why? Dude, those. I mean, are those? What are those really low drums? The name is passing me by.
So those are, I believe, I'll pull that up now.
Taiko drums.
Those are the taiko drums.
Right.
Let me just get to that.
They sound so good. Like even just a steady one hit of one of those will get everybody just excited with anticipation of what's coming. They're just such a unique sound, and I think you've done a really great job of capturing the full body of them.
There's it's that horsehair mic.
Is it? It's gotta be. I mean, I need that microphone. It sounds like a one of a kind. Yeah.
It's the room, the mics. I mean, again, we had 89 mics open on the stage. We did the trick. Actually, I wonder if I still have that photo open. See if we can. I may have closed it already. But we set up a big Yamaha speaker and inverted the polarity of it and made that a subwoofer mic. At the low, like the sub kick, where you basically take a speaker cone and swap it so that the signal comes in instead of going out, and that then acts as a microphone. And it was this, it was a cabinet it was probably 3 feet tall by 2 feet deep by 2 feet wide, and we put that right behind the big taikos, and it got that clean thump.
Yeah, there's something about the body of it. It just feels yeah. I gotta stop gushing, or people are gonna get suspicious here. But
so on this, it is the ensemble. It's the low taikos. So this is that. It's I believe it's 2 26-inch taikos and 1 60-inch taiko.
That's a big taiko.
So it's a very, very large frame. That thing was massive sounding. So even at you get that like thump. And a lot of that has to do with we're doing a little bit of low pass filtering and then saturating just a little touch at the top, right at that top dynamic. So you're not really squashing it with compression, but you're getting that full body punch. And then up to the mids. And you hear the room. The room just sounds amazing. And those, if we take a look at the stage feature here, you can move the drums as close or as far back as you want.
Can you also set the stage size, or is that a...
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
so you can pull everything in. So say you just want... You hear a little bit of the room because the drums were recorded in the room, but you get the close sound. Actually, you can hear those low drums again with just the close. Then we also provide, I'm not sure how many of you will be able to hear, but we have an LFE channel. Which just gets... I don't have a word for it.
I think we all got perfectly understood what you were saying there without saying something.
Yep. So yeah, you can adjust the size of the room. You can kind of scale without losing your original mix. You can scale all the way back, all the way front. If you want everything to be just a little more wet, you can position it anywhere. And this is for every source, which you can then load simply by clicking and dragging onto your bank. And you have 3 banks, so you get 36 drums for each of these. And it's just... I love it. This is, if I were to pick a child, this is it.
Let them all burn, except for Damage 2.
That's it. And then, I mean, you can see here with the content, you have monster ensembles, you have all the organic drums, and that ranges from giant Grand Casas, regular kick drums that we mounted onto frames and performed like toms.
Where's the trash cans and the the big one
So you
there.
have all the hybrid hits, the damage hits, which I'll go to in a second, and then you get found sounds, dumpsters, metal poles,
Yes.
trash cans, plastics, and you can mark. So say if you go here, I want to click that as a favorite, and you can mark it, and you have a favorite section, so you can remember out of all of this content, I don't actually know offhand what the total number is. We had 180 something drums that came into the stage.
It was 41,000 samples. So
Yeah.
does that include multiple velocity hits though?
Yes. So depending on the source, there's anywhere from 11 to 18 velocities with 9 round robins.
Wow.
There's just that range that you get. That was one of the things during recording. We had to do a little bit of stress testing to figure out what the best way to record to keep it steady. Whether it's, record up and then back down in velocity and do that multiple times. Is it track all the louds? Is it track all the quiets? It really depended on the source. The one common thread for all of the recording was that after every batch we would record, we would stop, take a break, and then get back up, and then just go to 11 and hit as hard as you can.
I need that kind of stress relief in my life sometimes. So the next time you're doing a library, hit me up. I'll come intern.
That's it. All right, so at the end of the track, we'll just pick up at 78. At the end here, wanted to keep this a little sparse for us to be able to hear all the drums. And then you get to the really fun part there at the end. And we'll crack this guy up. So, damage hits is where we took all the sources, all the sounds that we had, and spent weeks upon weeks just building these really unique one-offs that range from absolutely insane to... And again, you can hear the space that's intentionally done on the hits as it tails out, leaving that middle for the impact, and then letting it echo left and right so that there's room for all that juicy stuff outside. And the fun part is naming these two. I think this was called Smash Face. So you get a whole palette of those in addition to all of the recorded stuff, in addition to all the loops. It's just a beast of a product. My favorite child.
Maybe play some of the loops in there too, because I know the loops in there are pretty phenomenal. There's one that's almost like a tribal tech house one that could just be the track for me. Just that, and I listened to it for 6 minutes.
All right, so that kind of tribal vibe was performed on the toms, I believe. Yeah, so these are the individual toms here that are playing. So and again with space, left and right space. Having higher drums further back, left and right, lower drums in the middle. You get your low thumps kind of punching equally between your stereo field. Just sounds cool.
Can you open up that stage? Because I just want to see how far left you had that one panned.
Sure.
So you've got some of them that were quite far over.
Yep.
What are the little dots in there? Is there method to that madness, or
shows you just the parameters of the stage?
Okay.
It gave this feel that like, here's a 3D plane, and rather than just having a framework of a 3D plane, it felt really bare when the circles were placed. And I was like, wait, what am I looking at? I don't understand.
Hmm.
So throwing in, and then if we had too many of these dots in the design, it became very difficult to see what I was doing. So having a little bit of sparse design in the background to show there's a 3D space for you to mix your sounds in, this is kind of where we landed. And sometimes that takes up a huge amount of production time for us, is really having a thoughtful process behind the UI design, because there's so much you could do in these instruments that making it presentable to a user is important, especially in this field. You want to be able to sit down and play and not have to read manuals and click tabs and do all the boring stuff that you don't want to. You want to write music.
That's it. That is exactly it.
All right, so I was going to pull up some loops here. Let me just crack that guy open. Put this on 3. And again, same as the drum kit. I'm at a pretty fast BPM, but the loops really respond well. I mean, we're at, I think the BPM on this part is 159, or 160, which is, the loops will work in whatever BPM you're working in. And there's a lot, and they range from really hybrid to really damaged to strictly organic. In the presets here, you got a lot of presets to play through. You have full menus, mixes, breakouts. You can design your own where you just hit the one key at the bottom and it plays all 3. You can play one at a time, your lows, your mids, your highs. You can change the volume, the pan, the tune, the speed, the effects that are being applied to it. You can control differently. There's a lot you could do, and we tried to do it in a way that, again, provided this stuff with as few clicks as possible. So that's pretty much Damage. If there aren't any questions, and we have some time, I wanted to bring up Ascend, which is a fun one too.
I want you to bring up Ascend if you don't mind. We have... what's your favorite plugin to use to mix? Yeah.
Oof.
You see what you've done, Jason NG, Game Composer? You see what you've done now? You've opened up the whole bag of worms now. We're going to get it.
Again, it depends on the source. It depends on the context and content. I have a lot of outboard gear that I run through. My main setup is that I run, if I'm doing a full mix, I sum out to the mixer there, record back in to a compressor and a black box, and then that's kind of my mastering chain. For mixing, I use FabFilter EQ is fantastic. I love it. They're great. The Polyverse guys' effects are great. Isotope plugins for cleanup, for leveling. I've actually really enjoyed using the what is it? The Lindell EQ. Is it the TE100?
I don't think we have that on Plugin Boutique. So if it doesn't exist on Plugin Boutique, it's
not 100. It may be that. And then that's the maximizer from Isotope for just simple cleanup at the end. That's really it. Those are kind of my go-tos, and then the outboard gear.
Have you tried out the new soft clip in the maximizer of Ozone 10?
I haven't yet. No, I do have it installed, but
it's pretty sweet. You're gonna. I think I got the gist of some things that you enjoy, and that's something that you're really gonna like.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out. And then Punish and Fury for a little bit of bump where needed works great on guitars and bass. Punish for drums and percussion and really get them to pop out. I use Punish a lot for almost like a VCA or a group channel for percussion, where I'll just slap it on and put a little bit of compression. The compressors that are in Punish, you have Vintage console and all the controls that you want, all the controls that you need, and those are modeled off of the chains that we have here that we use outboard. So having it in the box for me it's like an old friend right in front of me, which is nice.
Love that. Welcome to everybody who's just joining. We're kind of winding down, but we do have one more, at least, instrument to check out from Heavyocity. We're here with the creative director, Ari Winters, and we are doing a poll that we'd like everybody to participate in and what type of content you want this year. And also, we're going to give some stuff away at the end of the stream. To be entered to win that, all you have to do is be active in the chat, and we will pick a few random names. And then Ari will pick a few random numbers, and those people will win some things. So that's exciting.
Right.
But not as exciting as this incredible piano instrument library, Ascend. Take it away, Ari.
All right, so Ascend is our take on the Concert D. We sampled a beautiful Concert D in a great studio that's here in New York. The thing is cared for by a technician that's been working for 40 years with the same piano, I think. So he knew it inside and out. He knew the intonation of it. He knew how to tune it so that it spoke well. And then, again, we had Satoshi come in and mic it up, mix it, work with it, and build this.
Horsehair mic again?
We did bring it. It's a great mic. And rather than felting it...
Can you give me a little boost on the output? Just a little one, yeah.
Yeah, sure thing. Sure thing. So right now I'm just playing the basic soft Concert D. So we went back after sampling the whole thing, went back and sampled just the quiet stuff. Just beautiful. And then we did what Heavyosity does.
I love that.
We went in and played it a whole bunch of different ways. We struck it with different things. We bowed it with twine. We brushed it. Did everything we did to the piano that is different. And then we mixed it with a mixer. So you can control what's playing, how it's playing. So say we turn this guy on, and let's load up just the struck muted. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong record here. So we muted the notes. Get this really cool sound. Or metal clang. Sounds almost dulcimer-y. And then pads. This was I believe this was a basting brush on the strings. So if we mix all that together, I have a couple that are already kind of pre-made here that we can listen to. I'll play the soft piano with some of those pads. You get an ebow, a brush, and then the chain being dragged across. And again, this texture comes from that imperfect nature. It's those jangles, the sounds, the twine randomly plucking at the string at different spots. That just makes it sound really natural. It's different. It's, again, Heavyosity. It's the not your bread and butter.
I mean, I want that bread and butter, though. That's good bread and butter right there.
And then we built a little bit of a really cool effects engine, an echo engine, where we put in rhythmic convolutions, where we built these convolution impulses that were rhythmic in nature, so that when you fed it a sound, you get that sweep from this one. And there's a whole batch of them that you can load up to play through. But if you wanted to have a rhythmic piano, it's just a really cool effect. This is one of my favorite effects that we have.
Keep playing stuff. We're all loving it. The chat's loving it. I'm loving it. We want to hear, not only this instrument, but a little more Ari.
All right, let's see what we got here. There's tons of presets. We have our kind of Ascended, which is our like all-stars category. Let's do muted cascades. So the other cool effect in it is the echoes engine, where you can do pitched echoes. If you see on the screen here, you see those little dots moving? So I have random turned on with a little bit of drift and a little bit of scatter, which means that our 3-channel mixer, which is playing the chain, the twine, but mostly the muted strike. Because drift and scatter is on, it basically means that every one of those echoes, the mixer is moving slowly towards the other side, so you get a little less muted, a little more of the chain. It helps modulate your sound without losing its identity.
So cool.
Fun. I love it. It's great. And then this product, we took the feature sets that we have in this and we applied it to our other products, Aspire, and then our newest one there, Avant, which is we took the same mentality and went after an electric stage piano. And that one too has this like, yeah, it's an electric piano, but
Did we briefly talk about that when I was on a phone call with you?
I think so, yeah.
We were doing something with similar people or similar thing, yeah. And this is a free instrument, right?
The Foundations piano.
Okay.
We started last year a Foundations line, which I love. We wanted to help. What's the best way to say this? We love the idea of being creative for creativity's sake without any barriers.
Love it.
Our goal, right? Our motto, it's on our website. Our motto is inspiring the future of cinematic sound. And we want anybody to be able to get in that door. So we started this Foundations line, which are kind of your foundational elements, but done the Heavyocity way. So we have, I believe there are 4 out now. The 5th one is out, should be out shortly. We had a little bit of a hiccup with the launch. But we started with the Foundations piano, which is a nice subtle piano. You have your core piano sound. I'll pull that up so you guys can see. And these are free. All you got to do is go to the website, add it to your cart, and they're good. And we did a similar idea as what Ascend is. Obviously, there's a lot more going on in Ascend. But we took a piano, we recorded it, and then we added a texture layer to it. So you get a little bit of that voice in the background that's sustaining, and then the note from the piano pops through. And we've now done staccato strings, piano, really cool nylon guitar, synth bass, and a motive choir, which just came out, which will be available shortly. But the same mentality, same ideology. There's some basic controls and then some pretty in-depth controls where you can arpeggiate. You can make some really cool textures. All based from that piano.
Lovely stuff.
And free.
And
Heavyosity.com.
free.
Yep.
I got a good question here from Jamie Ortega, and that is, do you plan to make independent instruments that don't depend on Kontakt, or what's the relationship there? What's I guess maybe for people who don't know, what are the benefits of using the Kontakt infrastructure as opposed to creating it all from scratch? Is it like free up time to focus on the instrument because you don't need to worry about that back end, or what's going on with all that? If you don't mind expanding.
Sure, yeah, I'll speak as much as I can towards it. Kontakt is a tried and true platform. It works great. It's been around for decades. We've been using it both as consumers and developers for a while now, and it's a great platform. It has made our lives a little easier in development without having to build like an SDK, software developers kit, to be able to build instruments off of. It works.
Yeah.
Just a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And honestly, we are still, we started this company grassroots, like I was saying before. Like Dave, Neil, and myself were the ones that went to the NAMM show and had the booth and grew the company, and we're a good small group of guys. Like, we love what we do. We're very passionate about it. All of us have our strengths. And I think that we've found a team here that really balances each other out very well. And that, I applaud all of us here, Louise, Alejandro, Jess, Shakir, Neil and Dave for kind of heading the charge, and Adam. And it requires the right group of people to do what we do, and it's very difficult to find that group of people in the field that we're in. Mm-hmm. And there's been hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I think we've really found the right group to help push this forward. And it's as a small team, having something like a platform that's kind of sustained and tried and true definitely makes things a little bit easier. Nice.
Well, that all makes sense. Was there anything else you wanted to show us today?
I think, I could go for hours. If you're in, I'm in.
I don't have anything to do until Friday afternoon, Ari.
All right. I think that this is probably a good place. All right. We've gone through a ton. There's lots of videos online.
Yep.
There's lots of products on the site. Definitely check out those walkthroughs. They're fun. Check out the briefs. They're also really great to watch. I enjoy watching it.
I've done a few videos myself. Good fun videos as well. Good fun products to. Anytime I get a great product to demo, it really helps. And thank you for that. That's a personal thank you for giving me great products to demo in the videos. Obviously, all the products we demo are great. That was so. Yeah, that's cool. Obviously, we can do a part 2 at some point as well. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
Time has flown by. We did get through everything we wanted to get through, so perhaps we'll put it on pause. We'll put it on pause for now, and we'll come back and do it again. Next time you've got something coming out, for sure, we'll do this again. And as you said, you've got quite the library of product at this point. 16 years in the making, and I'd like to hear it all. I'd like to hear you demo it all, because some of my favorite moments from tonight were you just noodling around on the keyboard, man. It's absolutely great to listen to.
My kiddos taking piano lessons, so I'm trying to get my chops back.
You got to set the good example. That's right.
That's it, right? Practice. Wow.
So we'll give everybody another maybe 30 seconds to vote in the poll, and I will give it another 30 seconds to be active in the chat to get a giveaway, and we'll do that giveaway in a second. But thanks again, Ari, for taking the time. It has been a great pleasure. Obviously, I think you're the manufacturer of the month on Plugin Boutique, so I highly suggest everybody who enjoyed what they heard here today, go check out what's going on. I'm sure there's a few offers, some exclusivity or something along those lines that everybody should be checking out.
And thank you guys and everybody listening for the Vocalise 3 award last year. Best plugin, that's best virtual instrument for Vocalise 3 was, again, for Vocalise 3. That's one of my favorites, so it was a really great honor. And for part 2, chat with us. Let us know what would you like us to go through. I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Absolutely.
I should demo next.
Yeah. What else didn't we check out? I mean, I can tell you what I want to know. I mean, I want to see Forzo is one of my favorites. Modern Strings is another one of my favorites. I mean, I think those are almost easy pickings, though. It's not like someone's gonna be like, "Oh no, of course not that one." But those are two that I'd love. Again, just hearing you give your take on it and letting you show us what you think is special about it, and then playing some of the presets or some of the different, because you not only have the loop designer, but you also have like the string designer, right? Where you can actually begin to like layer up certain things. And there's really a lot we can get into. And those are two things that I would definitely like to do in part 2. We got some people in the chat suggesting part 2 needs to happen.
Go through symphonic destruction as well, because that's a fun one.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about, and I actually misspoke earlier, and I need to clarify this. It was Gravity was the first VST I got from Gareth and Plugin Boutique, which set it off. Damage was the first one I got you to give me for free. So they both hold a very near and dear place in my heart. But I wanted to clarify that for me, so I can sleep it tonight, not having misspoke. But it was Gravity.
Perfect.
And that's another one that, even though it's quite old now, isn't it? How long has that been out?
I very distinctly remember the 4 a.m. pizzas.
Yep. Okay.
I want to say it was 2016, 2015.
Oh man,
one of those years.
That's how long I've been working with Plugin Boutique. That's wild. I mean, it's fantastic. I actually re-scored. I think it was The Strangers trailer with just sound effects and noises from Gravity, and it actually worked. Kind of going back to the thing that you don't need a lot to happen to evoke emotion, and it was just it's a great instrument that people should check out.
It is. It's, I mean, even in my writing, if I need a stinger, a transitional element, a hit, any kind of trailer-esque style of sound, Gravity's still my go-to. It's, I mean, the stuff in there is just nasty sounding. In a really good way. In a really, 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 really good way.
The best nasty way it could be.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm going to give away a few plugins. You've been gracious enough to allow me to do so. We're going to give away 6 plugins right now for the beautiful people who have taken part and been active and positive in the chat. We're going to give away 2 copies of Punish, 2 copies of Fury. Ari and I agree that you need these in your life for saturation and distortion. And then we're going to give 2 grand prize winners a copy of Damage 2, the full boat, the big one, the big drums, everything you need in your life. If it's not saturation, it needs to be taiko drums, that's for sure. And the way we do this, Ari, I don't know if you've seen before, is I've been given a bunch of names, and I don't know how many names this is, but you get to tell me your favorite number. So I'm going to give away 6 plugins, so we'll say 12 names. Let me just see here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, okay. All right. So I got 12 names here.
All right.
And I need to know your favorite numbers between 1 and 12.
Okay.
6 of them.
7.
7 is the one. Okay. 1. Yeah. Okay.
6.
All right.
9.
I see. You just want me to jump around a lot on the list. That's fine. Let's fine.
1.
Okay. All right.
And 12.
I believe that's only 5, unless I've...
11.
Okay. There we go. That's 6 names. All right. So, here we go. And of those, which ones were your favorite? The first 2? The first 2 must have been your
Yeah, I think 7 and 6.
All right, those are the people who are going to win Damage 2 then. So where this is a double-blind, double random test, and here we go. We've got the winner of Punish is Rhythmic Funk. Congratulations, you've won Punish. And the second winner of Punish will be Ollie Bowden, I think. Beaudin. How would you pronounce that? I said it right? Bowden?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's huge. I'm going to go ahead and just roll an applause. Very nice. And next up, the winner of Fury, Fabiano B. Congratulations. Fury, brand new distortion saturation plugin to push things into the best place they can be, which is distorted and saturated. And finally, the next winner of Fury is Martin H. Martin H., congratulations.
Congrats, Martin.
Yes, everybody say thank you to the Heavyosity team and Ari for allowing us to give away those plugins. Before I call the final 2 winners of the Damage 2 instrument library, if your name has been called, we just need you to send an email to support@pluginboutique.com with a screenshot of you logged into your YouTube account so we can verify it's you. And just let us know what you want, and we'll get you sorted as soon as possible. It is well after working hours, so it will probably not be today, but we'll get you sorted, I promise. All right, and the last 2 grand prize winners of Damage 2 is Klaus Peterson. Winner, chicken dinner, Damage 2, congratulations. And Control S D&B. I feel like I need someone else, because I'm writing stuff, I need someone else to trigger the applause button on my soundboard. But congratulations. I mean, that's a pretty massive gift, if I do say so myself. It literally, between that and Heavyosity, changed my life. No, not Heavyosity,
right.
Gravity. So,
That's
yeah, that's absolutely massive. Congratulations to the winners. Again, that's Klaus Peterson, Control S D&B, Rhythmic Funk, Ollie Bowden, Fabiano B, and Martin H. You're all winners from today's stream. We're going to leave those in the comments down below, but just email us at support@pluginboutique.com and we will get you sorted. With that, Ari, I will let you go. I know you got a full day ahead of you. I need to eat some dinner. And it's been a pleasure. Part 2 is definitely absolutely something we should do. You just reach out. You let me know when you're down to do it, and we will get it scheduled. All right?
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Joshua. And thanks, everyone.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joshua Casper. That's another dev stream in the books, and we will see you in the next one.
Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm when I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place I with the one Jamalski. Tell us sit up on the rhythm and I open the mic incredible. I'm be right part rhythm and I move with the rhythm I sit down steady. Every ragamuffin you do I feel rock and follow me. Jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it right. Chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they come, we give it a general. International, when me ride palm rhythm and I move with the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. For the men on the place I with the one Jamal street.